The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council was designed to humble. Its walls stretched upward for 300 meters, constructed from compressed starlight that shifted colors with each political mood. Representatives from 947 different species occupied tiered seating that spiraled around a central platform where the accused would stand, exposed and vulnerable before the collective judgment of known civilization. Today, that platform held a single human. Ambassador Rachel Torres stood with her hands clasped loosely in front of her, dressed in a simple black suit that looked absurdly plain against the elaborate bioluminescent robes, crystalline exoskeletons, and living metal armor worn by the beings who stared down at her. She was 53 years old, gray-haired, and appeared utterly unconcerned that the most powerful governing body in the galaxy had summoned her to answer for crimes against interstellar law. Supreme Chancellor Vothrak presided from the highest tier, his massive form casting shadows even in the hall's omnidirectional lighting. His species, the Borvathi, had maintained order in the galaxy for 6,000 years through a combination of military might and bureaucratic efficiency. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of epochs. Ambassador Rachel Torres of Earth, you stand accused of coordinating an illegal intelligence operation that violated the sovereignty of 17 Council member species. How do you answer? Rachel looked up at him calmly. Before I answer, Chancellor, may I ask a question? A murmur rippled through the assembly. No one asked questions during formal accusations. The Barvathi Chancellor's 3 eyes narrowed, but he gestured for her to continue. Has anyone here actually read the full report on what we allegedly did? The evidence is clear, spoke Delegate Hernax, a serpentine creature whose species controlled the Council's intelligence apparatus. For the past 9 months, a human operative named David Reed evaded our finest tracker, Huntress Kivara of the Thakana. He led her on a chase across multiple systems, constantly staying 1 step ahead. When she finally cornered him, she discovered he had been conducting unauthorized surveys of restricted space. Unauthorized, Rachel repeated. That's an interesting word choice. You deny this? Vothrak demanded. I deny that it was unauthorized. David Reed had full authorization. From me. From Earth's governing council. What he didn't have was your authorization, which brings me back to my original question. Rachel's voice remained steady, conversational even. Has anyone actually read the full report? Hernax's hood flared in irritation. We have reviewed all relevant materials. Then you know that David Reed completed detailed scans of the forbidden sectors. The same sectors your council declared off limits 2,000 years ago. The same sectors you claim are too dangerous for any vessel to navigate. Rachel paused. Except he navigated them just fine. In fact, he mapped 17 safe routes through gravitational anomalies that your scientists said were impossible to survive. The murmuring grew louder. Vothrak raised one massive hand for silence. The forbidden sectors are restricted for good reason, Ambassador. They contain spatial rifts, dark matter concentrations, and phenomena that have destroyed every exploration vessel we sent there. Hundreds of ships. Thousands of lives lost. And yet one human in a modified cargo hauler not only survived, but thrived, Rachel said. Which raises some uncomfortable questions, doesn't it? From the enforcement section, a figure rose. Kivara moved like liquid death, her predatory frame drawing every eye. The Thakna were legendary hunters, and she was the finest of her species. 3 meters tall, packed with muscle, her 6 eyes capable of tracking prey across star systems. She had never failed a hunt in 15 years of service to the Council. Until David Reed. The human mocks this assembly, Kivara growled. I tracked David Reed for 247 days. He fled like prey flees a hunter. There was nothing noble in his running. Rachel smiled. It wasn't a friendly expression. Huntress, how many times did you almost catch him? Kivara's claws flexed. 17 times. Each time he escaped by minimal margins. And where did these near captures occur? Various locations throughout the forbidden sectors. He was reckless, taking risks no sane pilot would attempt. Or, Rachel said quietly, he was making sure you followed him to very specific locations. 17 locations, to be exact. The exact same locations where he needed high-grade sensor verification that the routes he'd mapped were accurate. The assembly fell silent. Kivara's 6 eyes all focused on Rachel with sudden, terrible understanding. You see, Rachel continued, addressing the entire council now, David Reed is one of our finest pilots. But he's not an expert on xenotechnology. He can fly routes, but he can't verify that alien vessels could also fly them. For that, he needed sensor data from a ship equipped with Council's standard navigation systems. He needed proof that these routes weren't just survivable by human vessels, but by any vessel. Delegate Hernax leaned forward. You're claiming this was intentional? That he deliberately led our Huntress through the forbidden sectors? I'm not claiming it. I'm stating it as fact. Rachel pulled a data crystal from her pocket and held it up. This contains David Reed's complete mission logs, time-stamped, every decision documented, including the psychological profile we built on Huntress Kivara to predict exactly how she'd track him, what routes she'd expect him to take, and how to stay just ahead of her while ensuring her sensors captured everything we needed. Kivara released a sound somewhere between a growl and a laugh. The prey was hurting the hunter. The prey was recruiting the hunter, Rachel corrected. And you performed beautifully. Thanks to your pursuit, we now have verified navigation data, proving that the forbidden sectors aren't forbidden at all. They're just difficult. Too difficult for most species, apparently. But not for us. Bothrek's 3 eyes blazed. Even if this is true, you violated Council protocols. The forbidden sectors are restricted to all vessels. To all Council vessels, Rachel agreed. But here's the thing, Chancellor. Earth isn't a Council member. We applied for membership 3 years ago. Your bureaucracy is still processing our application. We've been patient. We've followed every rule that applies to us. But the forbidden sector restrictions only apply to Council members and their affiliates. A technicality, Hernax hissed. Law, Rachel countered. You built this system on laws and procedures. We're simply operating within them. The forbidden sectors contain 78 habitable star systems. Resource deposits worth more than the entire current Council economy, and faster routes between major quadrants that could revolutionize trade. You declared them forbidden because you couldn't access them. We can. The Chancellor's form seemed to expand with rage. You dare threaten this Council? I'm not threatening anyone. I'm negotiating. Rachel's expression hardened. Here's the situation. As of this morning, Earth has established preliminary outposts in 12 systems within the forbidden sectors. We have complete navigation data for safe passage. We have proof, verified by your own Huntress, that these routes are viable. And according to interstellar salvage and settlement laws, unclaimed territory is open to any spacefaring civilization. Those laws assume Council oversight, Bothrak said. Those laws predate the Council by 2,000 years, Rachel shot back. They're foundational to galactic civilization. You can't change them without unanimous consent of all member species, which would take decades to achieve. By then, Earth will control the most valuable real estate in known space. Delegate Hernax's hood had gone pale. You planned this from the beginning. We planned for every contingency, Rachel confirmed. When you delayed our membership application, we realized you saw us as a problem to be managed, not partners to be welcomed. So we decided to change the equation. Now you have choices to make. Explain these choices, Bothrak commanded, his voice dangerously quiet. Rachel held up one finger. Option 1. Approve our council membership immediately. Full voting rights. Equal status with all member species. In exchange, we share complete access to the forbidden sector routes. Joint development. Everyone benefits. A second finger. Option 2. Continue delaying our membership. We proceed with independent development of the forbidden sectors. We'll follow all applicable laws, but the Council gets no access to the new territories or trade routes. Your economy stagnates while ours expands. A third finger. Option 3. You attempt to forcibly prevent our development through military action or legal challenges. In which case, David Reed has a ship full of autonomous navigation beacons currently in the forbidden sectors, ready to activate. Once active, they'll broadcast the safe routes to every independent trading vessel, pirate group, and non-council civilization in range. The forbidden sectors become a free-for-all, and the council loses control of the entire region. The assembly erupted. Delegates from 100 species shouted, threatened, and argued. Rachel stood calm in the center of the storm, waiting. Kivara approached the platform's edge, looking up at the human ambassador. You used me. We recruited you, Rachel replied. You're the finest tracker in council service. Your reputation made this plan possible. David Reed specifically requested you for this mission. I should challenge you to blood combat for the dishonor. Would that change anything? The Huntress was silent for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, she laughed. It was a terrifying sound. No, I think I would rather watch what happens next. Your species is dangerous, Rachel Torres. Only to those who underestimate us. Chancellor Vothrock slammed his fist against the judgment podium, creating a boom that silenced everyone. This session is suspended. The Council will deliberate on Earth's status. Ambassador Torres, you will remain in Council custody until a decision is reached. Rachel shook her head. I'll remain in Council territory for 48 hours. After that, I return to my ship and transmit a coded message to David Reed. Whatever he receives in that message determines which option we proceed with. You have 2 days, Chancellor. I suggest you use them wisely. As security forces moved to escort her to diplomatic quarters, Rachel caught Kivara's eye one final time. The Huntress nodded slightly, a gesture of respect between worthy adversaries. The Galactic Council had spent 6,000 years as the unquestioned authority in known space. They had faced rebellions, wars, and diplomatic crises. But they had never faced a species quite like humanity. Species that turned being hunted into a recruitment operation. A species that found opportunity in restrictions. A species that negotiated by making their fare. Absence more costly than their inclusion. 40-8. Hours remained for the Council to decide humanity's place in galactic civilization. The clock had started ticking the moment Rachel Torres stepped onto that platform. And somewhere in the forbidden sectors, David Reed waited for his orders, ready to change the galaxy forever. The diplomatic quarters assigned to Rachel Torres were luxurious by any standard. Walls that shifted to display any environment she desired, furniture that adjusted to human physiology, and food synthesizers programmed with Earth cuisine. It was a gilded cage, and everyone knew it. Rachel sat at the window, overlooking the Council's capital city, a sprawling metropolis that housed representatives from nearly 1,000 worlds. Towers of living crystal grew beside structures of pure energy. Ships from 100 different species moved through carefully controlled traffic lanes. It was beautiful, organized, and represented everything the Council believed about itself. Order, control, superiority. She checked her chronometer. 36 hours remained. The door chimed. Rachel turned to see Kivara entering without waiting for permission. The massive Huntress had to duck to fit through the doorway, her predatory frame filling the room with barely contained violence. "They sent you to intimidate me?" Rachel asked calmly. "No one sent me. I came because I need to understand." Kivara settled into a corner, her 6 eyes never leaving the human. "You turned me into a tool. I should be angry. Instead, I am curious." "About what?" "About how you knew I would follow. How you predicted my every move. I have hunted for 15 years. I have tracked prey across dead zones, through dimensions, into places where reality itself breaks down. No one has ever anticipated me like your David Reed did." Rachel smiled. "We studied you. For 8 months before David's mission even began, we watched recordings of your previous hunts. We analyzed your tactics, your preferences, your psychology. We built a profile more detailed than most species build for their own members. Why go to such lengths? Because we needed the very best. If we'd used a mediocre tracker, the Council could claim our navigation data was flawed. But you're legendary. When Huntress Kivara verifies something, no one questions it." The Thakinus claws extended slightly, a sign of agitation. "You gambled that I would not simply kill David Reed when I caught him. Not a gamble. A certainty. Your species has a code. You don't kill prey that hasn't offered violence. David was never armed. He never fired on your ship. He only ran. And your honor wouldn't allow you to execute someone who was simply fleeing." Kivara was silent for a long moment. "You understand us better than most council species understand each other. How?" "Because we're new to this galaxy, and everyone underestimates the new arrival. They talk freely around us, assuming we're too primitive to grasp the nuances of galactic politics. But humans have a gift, Huntress. We're exceptional at reading social dynamics, at understanding what motivates people, at seeing patterns others miss." Rachel leaned forward. "You want to know why we're dangerous? It's not because we have better technology or stronger ships. It's because we pay attention." Before Kivara could respond, the room's communication panel activated. Chancellor Vothrak's image appeared, massive and intimidating, even in holographic form. "Ambassador Torres, the Council has completed its preliminary deliberations. We request your presence in the negotiation chamber." "Request or demand, Chancellor?" His 3 eyes narrowed. "Do not test my patience, human. I'll be there shortly." Rachel cut the connection and stood. "Coming, Huntress? This is Council business. And yet you're here, curious about what happens next. I think you should see it through." Kivara rose, towering over the human. "You are either very brave or very foolish. I'm neither. I'm just very prepared." The negotiation chamber was smaller than the Grand Assembly Hall, but no less imposing. Only senior council members were present, 50 beings representing the most powerful civilizations in known space. They sat in a semicircle, facing a simple table where Rachel took her seat. Kivara stood against the back wall, observing. Chancellor Vothrak spoke first. "We have analyzed your claims regarding the forbidden sectors. Our scientists confirm that the navigation data you provided is legitimate. The routes exist. Of course they do. However, Delegate Hernax continued, we cannot simply grant immediate council membership based on blackmail." Rachel's expression didn't change. "I prefer to call it aggressive negotiation." "You hold our economy hostage," said Councillor Dren, a floating jellyfish-like being whose species controlled most agricultural production. "You threaten to destabilize trade routes that have existed for millennia. This is not how civilized species conduct diplomacy." "You're right," Rachel agreed. "Civilized species respond to membership applications within a reasonable time frame. 3 years is not reasonable, Counselor. You've been studying us, testing us, trying to determine if we're worthy to join your club. Meanwhile, you've restricted our trade. limited our territorial expansion, and treated us like children who need guidance from our betters. Your species has been spacefaring for less than a century, Vothrak rumbled. Most council members had achieved interstellar capability for thousands of years, before being considered for membership. And yet, we've accomplished something in 9 months that your entire civilization couldn't do in 2,000 years. We've opened the forbidden sectors. That should tell you everything you need to know about our capabilities. Hernax leaned forward, his serpentine body coiling. Or it tells us that you're reckless, that you take risks that endanger not just yourselves, but everyone around you. You call it reckless. We call it innovative. We look at problems differently than you do. Your scientists said the forbidden sectors were impossible to navigate. They ran simulations, conducted tests, and concluded it couldn't be done. So you gave up. Rachel stood, placing her hands on the table. We didn't give up. We asked different questions. What if the gravitational anomalies follow patterns? What if the dark matter concentrations create predictable currents? What if spatial rifts can be mapped and avoided? We tested. We failed. We learned. We tried again. That's what humans do. You also got lucky, Counselor Dren said. Your David Reed could have died 100 times during that mission. David Reed is sitting safely in his ship right now, waiting for my signal. I wouldn't call that luck. I'd call it skill. Kavara spoke from the back of the room. The human is correct. I reviewed Reed's piloting data. Every risk he took was calculated. Every escape had multiple planned alternatives. He knew exactly what he was doing. The council members looked uncomfortable. Having their own enforcement officer defend the accused wasn't part of their script. Vothrak changed tactics. Even if we grant your membership, what guarantee do we have that Earth will honor galactic laws? You've already demonstrated a willingness to exploit legal loopholes. We demonstrated a willingness to operate within your legal framework. Even when that framework was designed to keep us subordinate, Rachel corrected. Every action we took was legal, according to interstellar law. You're upset because we used your own rules against you. That's not a violation. That's intelligence. It's also a warning, Hernax said quietly. A demonstration that humanity will always seek advantage, always push boundaries, always look for ways to come out ahead. Yes, and you should be celebrating that instead of fearing it. Rachel's voice softened slightly. Counselor, when was the last time anyone challenged the Council's assumptions? When was the last time someone found a new solution to an old problem? When was the last time this civilization pushed forward instead of maintaining what already exists? The chamber fell silent. Several council members exchanged glances. The forbidden sectors have been locked away for 2,000 years, Rachel continued. 78 habitable systems. Resources beyond measure. Faster trade routes. All of it sitting unused because you decided it was impossible. We've just handed you access to that future. Yes, we want something in return. We want recognition, equality, a seat at the table. Is that really so unreasonable? Counselor Dren's form rippled thoughtfully. The Council exists to maintain stability. Your species represents change. Unpredictable change. Stability is another word for stagnation, Counselor. The galaxy is vast. There are challenges coming that you can't even imagine yet. When those challenges arrive, do you want a civilization that's been maintaining the status quo for 6,000 years? Or do you want allies who know how to adapt, who solve impossible problems, who turn obstacles into opportunities? Vothrak stood, his massive frame dominating the chamber. You speak well, Ambassador Torres, but words are easy. The Council requires proof of good faith. Release the navigation data for the forbidden sectors now. Share it freely. Demonstrate that Earth truly wishes to be a partner rather than a competitor. Rachel smiled. It wasn't a warm expression. No, no. The Chancellor's voice dropped to a dangerous rumble. You're asking us to give away our only leverage before you've agreed to anything. That's not negotiation. That's surrender. I told you the options, Chancellor. I meant them. Approve our membership, and we share everything. Delay, and we proceed alone. Attempt to force us, and we release the data to everyone, making the forbidden sectors a free-for-all that destroys your control of that entire region. You would truly risk galactic chaos rather than compromise. I would truly protect my species' interests rather than trust in the goodwill of a council that spent 3 years avoiding a simple yes or no answer to our membership. Application. Hernax hissed in frustration. We cannot make this decision in 48 hours. The bureaucratic processes alone require months of review. Then find a way to accelerate those processes. You're the most powerful governing body in the galaxy. Surely you can manage some emergency procedures when properly motivated. Kivara made a sound that might have been amusement. All eyes turned to her. The human has you cornered, the Huntress said. She is prey that has learned to hunt. You have 2 choices. Accept her terms or watch her walk away with everything you want. There is no third option, no matter how much you wish there was. Chancellor Vothrak's 3 eyes blazed with anger, but he couldn't argue with the assessment. The Council had been outmaneuvered by a species they'd considered barely civilized. We will reconvene in 12 hours, he announced. Ambassador Torres, you will wait here. I'll wait in my quarters, Rachel replied. And Chancellor? 24 hours remain. I suggest you use them to make a decision you can live with. Because once that timer expires, the choice gets made for you. As the council members filed out, Kivara approached Rachel. You risk much, small human. That's what humans do best. We bet everything when we believe we're right. And if you are wrong? Rachel's smile was fierce. Then David Reed releases those beacons. The forbidden sectors become accessible to everyone, and the galaxy learns that the Council couldn't handle competition from one small planet. Either way, Earth wins. We either get membership and access, or we get chaos that we're better equipped to navigate than anyone else. The Huntress studied the human with all 6 eyes. Your species is going to change everything, aren't they? We already have Huntress. The Council just hasn't accepted it yet. As Rachel returned to her quarters, she checked her chronometer. Again, not 20-4 hours remained. David. Reed was waiting, and the galaxy was about to discover that humanity didn't ask for permission. To take their place among the stars, they took it. David. Reed sat in the pilot's chair of the cargo vessel Meridian, watching sensor readings that would make most Council navigators break out in cold sweats. His ship hung in space at the edge of a gravitational anomaly that looked like a wound in reality itself. Purple and black energy swirled in patterns that defied physics. And somewhere beyond that chaos lay one of the 78 systems that could change everything. He was a lean man in his early 40s, with the calm demeanor of someone who'd spent most of his adult life in dangerous places. Former military pilot, current explorer, and for the past 9 months, the most wanted fugitive in Council space, got his communication console beeped. Encrypted message incoming. David opened it with a biometric key that only he and 3 other people in the universe could activate. Rachel's face appeared on the screen, recorded 12 hours ago. David, the Council is deliberating. They're scared and angry and trying to find a way out of the corner we've put them in. I need you ready to execute any of the 3 protocols. Green for partnership, yellow for independent development, red for full release of navigation data. She paused. And David, if you don't hear from me in 12 hours, assume the worst and go to red automatically. The message ended. David checked his chronometer. He had 11 hours and 17 minutes remaining before Rachel's deadline. He stood, moving to the cargo bay where 50 autonomous navigation beacons sat ready for deployment. Each one contained complete route data for the forbidden sectors, programmed to broadcast on frequencies that every independent trader, pirate crew, and non-council ship would pick up. The moment he activated them, the Council's carefully controlled order would collapse. Red protocol meant war. Not with weapons, but with information. David had spent enough time in Council space to understand what that would mean. The forbidden sectors would become a gold rush. Thousands of ships from hundreds of species would flood in, competing for resources, establishing claims, fighting over territory. The Council's authority would shatter. Chaos would reign for years, maybe decades, and humanity would thrive in that chaos because humans were very good at navigating disorder. His proximity alarm chimed. Ship approaching. David returned to the cockpit, hands moving to weapons controls before his sensors identified the vessel. Thakana design. Military grade. Only one ship like that in this region. Kivara was coming. The Huntress's ship, Predator's Eye, was a masterwork of lethal engineering. Sleek, fast, armed with weapons that could crack a moon. It pulled alongside the Meridian with the grace of a striking serpent. David opened a channel. Huntress. I'm surprised to see you this far from Council territory. Kivara's face filled his screen, all 6 eyes focused on him with predatory intensity. David Reed, a prey that taught me humility. I needed to speak with you before everything changes. I'm listening. May I board your vessel? I give you my oath as a hunter that I mean no harm. David considered. A Thakana oath was binding. Their culture would rather die than break a sworn promise. Docking port 3. You'll have to duck. 10 minutes later, Kivara stood in the Meridian's small common area, her massive frame making the space feel cramped. She looked around with obvious curiosity, her multiple eyes taking in every detail of human ship design. Your vessel is smaller than I expected, she said. You accomplished all of this in such a limited craft? Humans learned a long time ago that size isn't everything. The Meridian is tough, efficient, and can go places bigger ships can't. David gestured to a reinforced chair he'd installed after learning about her species. Sit if you want, though I'm curious why you're here instead of with the Council. Kivara settled into the chair, which groaned under her weight, but held. Because I realized something during Ambassador Torres's negotiation. The Council fears you, truly fears you, and I wanted to understand why. They told you why. We opened the forbidden sectors. No, that is what you did, not why they fear you. Any species could have opened those sectors with enough luck and determination. The Council fears you because you think differently, because you saw me as a tool instead of a threat, because you turned their own systems against them. She leaned forward. I have hunted for 15 years. I have tracked the most dangerous prey in known space. But you are the first who made me feel like I was dancing to someone else's rhythm. That is what frightens them. David poured himself coffee from a battered thermos, offering one to Kivara, who declined. The Council has been in power for 6,000 years. They've forgotten what it's like to face a real challenge. Every species that joins them adopts their way of thinking, their procedures, their limitations. We won't do that. Because you believe you are superior? Because we believe there's always a better way. The Council looks at the forbidden sectors and sees impossible barriers. We look at the same barriers and see puzzles to solve. They see danger. We see opportunity. They want to maintain what exists. We want to discover what could exist. He sipped his coffee. That's not superiority, Huntress. That's a different perspective. But to the Council, any perspective that challenges their authority feels like a threat. Kivara was silent, processing this. What will you do when Ambassador Torres sends her signal? Depends on what she sends. Green protocol means we share everything and work together. Yellow means we develop the sectors alone. Red means I activate those beacons and watch the galaxy burn. And you would truly do that? Unleash chaos across known space? David set down his coffee, his expression hardening. You want to know the truth, Huntress? Humans have been fighting each other for our entire history. We know war. We know chaos. We know what it's like when order breaks down and everyone's scrambling for survival. And we learned something important through all that conflict. What did you learn? That we're really good at it. At adaptation. At turning disasters into advantages. At finding opportunity in crisis. The Council built their civilization on stability and control. They're fragile. Take away that control and they panic. But humans? He smiled without humor. We thrive when everything falls apart. So yes, if they force us to Red Protocol, I'll do it. Not because I want to, but because humanity will come out of that chaos stronger than we went in, while the Council crumbles. You would sacrifice billions of lives for your species' advancement. The Council would sacrifice billions to maintain their power. They've done it before. Every time they enforce their trade restrictions, their territory limitations, their controlled membership process. They dress it up as maintaining order, but it's really about keeping everyone else subordinate. David's voice was cold. We're offering them partnership. True partnership, with shared benefits and mutual respect. If they choose confrontation instead, the consequences are on them. Kivara stood, pacing the small space with restless energy. I came here to understand you. I think I do now. You are not evil. You are not good. You are pragmatic. You see the universe as it is, and adapt accordingly. That's fair. The Council will never trust a species that thinks this way. Then they'll never truly accept us as equals. And that's the real problem, isn't it? They want subordinates who follow their rules. We want partners who respect our capabilities. Those two positions are incompatible unless someone changes. The Huntress stopped pacing, all 6 eyes focusing on David with laser intensity. What if I could offer you a third path? Something between partnership and chaos? I'm listening. There are factions within the Council. Species who are tired of the bureaucracy, who see the current system as stagnant. The Thakina are one such faction. We value strength, adaptability, cunning. You have demonstrated all three. What if we supported Earth's membership openly? Used our influence to force the Council's hand? David raised an eyebrow. Why would you do that? Because watching you operate has been the most interesting experience I've had in years. Because my species respects worthy adversaries. Because the galaxy needs change, and humanity seems designed to provide it. She paused. And because I think the Council is about to make a terrible mistake. They will either reject you out of pride, or accept you with so many restrictions that partnership becomes meaningless. Both options lead to conflict. And you want to prevent that conflict? I want to ensure that if conflict comes, it serves a purpose. Red Protocol would create chaos, yes, but pointless chaos that harms everyone. What if instead we create directed change? Political pressure from within the Council, combined with humanity's demonstrated capabilities? Force them to adapt rather than destroy what exists? David considered this. It was elegant in a way he hadn't anticipated. You're suggesting we threaten Red Protocol, but actually work toward a modified Green Protocol. Use the fear of chaos to push through real reform. Exactly. The Council needs to understand that their current path leads to disaster. But they also need a viable alternative. We provide that alternative. We? Kivara's expression was as close to a smile as her species could manage. I told you, David Reed. Hunting you was the most interesting experience I've had. I would like to continue that partnership, but aimed at bigger prey. The Council's complacency, their bureaucratic paralysis, their inability to adapt. David's communication console beeped. Message incoming from Rachel. His heart rate increased. This was it. The signal that would determine everything. He opened the message, aware that Kivara was watching him carefully. Rachel's face appeared, and she looked tired but determined. David, the Council is splitting. Some members want immediate acceptance. Others want to call our bluff. Chancellor Vothrak is trying to find middle ground, which means more delays and restrictions. We're not going to get the clean partnership we wanted. David's hand moved toward the beacon activation controls. But Rachel continued, we have allies we didn't expect. Several council factions are pushing for our acceptance, arguing that humanity represents the innovation they need. It's not enough to guarantee victory, but it's something. I'm authorizing Yellow Protocol with a modification. Begin independent development, but leave channels open for cooperation with friendly factions. We build our position while building alliances. It's slower than green, but safer than red. The message ended. David looked at Kivara. Looks like you called it. The Council can't make a decision, so we make it for them. Yellow Protocol, then? Modified Yellow. We develop the forbidden sectors on our terms, but we work with Council factions who see the value in partnership. Build a coalition of the willing instead of forcing the whole Council to accept us. Kivara nodded slowly. A hunting strategy. Divide the herd. Target the weak points. Gradually shift the balance of power. Exactly. It'll take longer, but it's more stable. Less chance of catastrophic chaos. And the beacons? Red Protocol? David smiled grimly. They stay ready. Insurance policy. If the Council tries to forcibly prevent our development, we still have the nuclear option. But we don't lead with it. The Huntress extended one massive claw in what David had learned was a gesture of respect among her people. He reached out and touched it carefully, aware that those claws could rip through hull plating. Then we have an alliance, David Reed. The Thakana will support Earth's independent development. We will provide political cover within the Council and share intelligence about opposition movements. In exchange for? Access to your navigation data for the forbidden sectors. Preferred trade status with Earth, and the opportunity to learn how your species approaches problems. We believe we can benefit from your perspective. It was more than David had hoped for. An alliance with one of the Council's most respected species would provide legitimacy and protection while humanity established itself. I'll need to run this by Rachel and Earth's government. But I think we have a deal. Kivara stood to leave. I will return to Council space and begin preparing my people. This will not be easy, David Reed. Many species will resist change. Some may even resort to violence. Let them try. Humans have been dealing with violence since we climbed out of the caves. We know how to handle threats. I know. That is why I believe you will succeed. She moved toward the airlock, then paused. One more thing. When all this is over, when Earth has its place in the galaxy, I want a rematch. A real hunt where you are not leading me to predetermined locations. David grinned. You're on, Huntress. Though I warn you, I've gotten better at running since last time. Good. Prey that cannot evolve deserves to be caught. After Kivara departed, David sat alone with his thoughts and his ready beacons. Modified Yellow Protocol was the right choice, but it meant a longer, more difficult path ahead. The Council wouldn't accept Earth easily. There would be political battles, economic pressures, probably attempts at sabotage. But humanity had allies now. And more importantly, they had proven they could succeed. Where the Council had failed, the forbidden sectors were opening. The galaxy was changing. and humanity was just getting started. 6 months had passed since Rachel Torres stood before the Galactic Council and changed the rules of engagement. The political landscape had shifted in ways that made even seasoned Council observers nervous. Earth's independent development of the forbidden sectors was proceeding exactly as planned. 12 outposts had grown into 43 thriving settlements. Human ships moved freely through routes that Council vessels still feared to navigate. Trade agreements with independent species bypassed Council regulations entirely, and the economic implications were starting to show. Chancellor Vothrak stood in his private chambers, reviewing reports that confirmed his worst fears. Human activity in the forbidden sectors had attracted attention from dozens of non-Council civilizations. Species that had never challenged Council authority were now asking uncomfortable questions about why they needed permission to explore space that humans accessed freely. The door chimed. Delegate Huntress entered without waiting for acknowledgement. His serpentine form coiled with tension. The Vrexian Combine just announced they're sending an exploration fleet into the forbidden sectors, Huntress said without preamble. They're citing humanity's successful navigation as proof that Council restrictions are outdated. Vothrak's 3 eyes closed briefly in frustration. That makes 17 independent actions in the past month. The humans are destabilizing everything we've built. Not the humans, us, we, created this situation by refusing to act decisively 6 months ago. Huntress moved to the window overlooking the Council capital. Ambassador Torres gave us clear options. We chose bureaucratic paralysis. This is the consequence. You supported delaying the decision because I believed we could maintain control. I was wrong. The delegates' hood flared in what might have been embarrassment. The humans have outmaneuvered us at every turn. Their alliance with the Thickenaga gave them legitimacy. Their trade agreements with independent species gave them economic power. Their successful settlements gave them territorial claims we cannot contest. And they did it all without violating a single interstellar law. Vothrak pulled up a holographic display showing the forbidden sectors. What had been empty space on Council maps was now filled with human outposts, marked trade routes, and resource extraction operations. 43 human settlements glowed like accusatory stars. We need to act, the Chancellor said, before this spirals completely beyond our control. Act how? Military intervention would be catastrophic. Economic sanctions would drive them closer to independent civilizations. Legal challenges would expose how badly we mishandled their membership application. Huntress paused. There is one option. The option we should have taken 6 months ago. Grant them full Council membership. Yes, immediately, with no restrictions. Give them everything Torres demanded. Vothrash's massive form seemed to shrink. The other Council members will never agree. The Vren Collective still sees humanity as upstart primitives. The Kelthur fear human unpredictability. The Xylan technocracy views them as potential rivals. Then those species will watch as their influence diminishes while humanity's grows. Chancellor, we are losing this confrontation. Every day we delay is a day Earth becomes more independent, more powerful, more attractive to other species as an alternative to Council membership. Huntress turned to face Vothrak directly. We either adapt or become irrelevant. Those are the only choices left. On Earth, in a nondescript government building in Geneva, Rachel Torres reviewed the same situation from a very different perspective. Her office was modest compared to the grandeur of Council chambers. Simple desk, comfortable chairs, windows overlooking the city. But the displays on her walls showed the scope of what humanity had achieved. Maps of the forbidden sectors, trade agreements with 47 different species, Military readiness reports showing Earth's defensive capabilities had tripled in 6 months. Her assistant, James Park, entered with fresh intelligence from their council sources. He was young, brilliant, and had a gift for reading political currents. "The council is fracturing," James said, placing a data tablet on her desk. "Vothrak and Hernax are pushing for immediate acceptance of our membership. The Vren Collective is threatening to veto. The Thakana are applying pressure from within. It's chaos." Rachel smiled. "Controlled chaos. Exactly what we wanted. Some of the Joint Chiefs are getting nervous. They think we're pushing too hard, that the Council might resort to military action. They won't. Military action would expose their weakness. If they attack us and we survive, which we would, their authority collapses completely. Every species in the galaxy would see that the Council can't enforce its will against a single planet." She pulled up tactical assessments. "Besides, our defense grid in the forbidden sectors is stronger than anything they could deploy. We've had 6 months to prepare. What about Kivara S. intelligence? She's been feeding us council deliberation notes for months. Can we trust her? The Thekana don't lie about sworn partnerships. Kivara wants change, and she sees us as the catalyst. Her intelligence has been accurate every time. The council is more divided than they've been in centuries." James sat down, looking thoughtful. "You know what's interesting? 6 months ago, we were asking for permission to join their club. Now they're trying to figure out how to join ours. That's always been the strategy. Don't ask for power. Make yourself indispensable. We didn't need council membership to succeed. We needed the council to realize they needed us." Rachel stood, walking to the window. "Every independent species that bypasses council restrictions to trade with us, every settlement we build, every successful navigation through routes they claimed were impossible. It proves the council is optional. That's what terrifies them. So what's our next move? We wait. Let the pressure build. Let more independent species see that Earth offers an alternative to council bureaucracy. Let the internal factions tear each other apart, arguing about how to respond." She turned back to James. "And we keep developing the forbidden sectors. Every new outpost, every successful trade route, every demonstration of human capability makes our position stronger. And if the council finally offers full membership," Rachel's expression hardened, "then we negotiate terms that guarantee Earth's sovereignty. No restrictions on our territorial expansion. No limitations on our trade agreements. Full voting rights with no probationary period. Equal status with every other council species. They'll never agree to that. 6 months ago, they'd never have agreed to negotiate at all. Times change, James. We changed them." In the forbidden sectors, aboard the Meridian, David Reed was dealing with more immediate concerns. His ship hung in space near Outpost 17, one of the newer human settlements. The outpost was a marvel of rapid construction, a combination of prefabricated modules and locally sourced materials that housed 300 people and supported mining operations on 2 nearby asteroids. But today, the outpost had visitors. 3 council warships had appeared at the edge of the system, running active sensors and broadcasting demands that all human personnel evacuate immediately. They claimed the system fell under historical council jurisdiction and that human presence violated territorial laws. It was a test. Everyone knew it. David opened a channel to the lead warship, a massive Vren Collective cruiser bristling with weapons. "This is David Reed of the human vessel Meridian. You're in violation of independent development protocols. This system was unclaimed and unused when we established our outpost. We have legal right to be here." The response came from Commander Thexval, a Vren officer whose reputation for aggressive enforcement was well known. "Your species does not have the authority to claim territory without council approval. Evacuate within 1 standard hour, or we will remove you by force. David checked his tactical display. The Meridian was no warship, but the outpost had defensive capabilities. More importantly, 2 human military vessels were in nearby systems, ready to respond if called. This was the moment Rachel had prepared them for. The moment when words became actions. Commander Thexfall, I'm going to give you some information you might not have. Human defensive protocols in the forbidden sectors include mutual defense agreements with 17 independent species. Attack us, and you're not just fighting Earth. You're fighting everyone who's benefited from our presence here. Empty threats from primitives. Test them if you want. But before you do, you should know that this conversation is being broadcast to every ship in a 50 light-year radius. Independent traders, mining operations, exploration vessels from species that aren't Council members. They're all watching to see if the Council will attack a peaceful settlement just to maintain control. There was silence on the channel. David could imagine Thexfall calculating the political implications. Attacking now wouldn't just be a military action. It would be a public relations disaster. You are bluffing, the commander finally said, but his voice carried less certainty. Check your communications logs. You've been broadcasting this entire conversation. That was your choice, not mine. Every word you've said about removing us by force is now public record. David smiled. So here's what happens next. You can attack, prove that the Council uses military force against peaceful settlements, and watch as dozens of independent species decide they're safer allying with Earth than staying neutral. Or you can withdraw, file a formal complaint through diplomatic channels, and we'll argue about jurisdiction in a courtroom instead of in combat. Another long silence. This is not over, human. I know. But today, it doesn't escalate. Today, you make the smart choice and live to fight another day through proper channels. The Vren warships held position for another 10 minutes before slowly accelerating away from the system. David watched them go, knowing this was just one skirmish in a longer conflict. He opened a secure channel to Rachel back on Earth. Torres, we just faced down 3 Council warships. They backed down, but they're not happy about it. Rachel's face appeared on his screen. Good. Let them be unhappy. Every confrontation they lose makes our position stronger. How's the outpost? Secure. Morale is high. People here know they're building something important. They are. Each settlement is a statement that humanity doesn't need Council permission to reach for the stars. Keep expanding, David. Keep proving that we can succeed on our terms. What about the Council's response? They're going to escalate. Let them. We're ready. And the more they push, the more obvious it becomes that their system is broken. Species are already starting to question why they need the Council at all. She paused. 6 months ago, we were asking to join their civilization. Now we're building our own, and others are asking to join us. That's the real victory. David signed off and returned his attention to the outpost below. 300 humans living and working in a system the Council had declared impossible to access. 42 more outposts just like it scattered across the forbidden sectors. Thousands of people building a future that didn't depend on Council approval. Chancellor, Vothrak had been right to fear humanity, not because humans were violent or aggressive, but because they offered an alternative. A civilization built on innovation instead of tradition, on adaptation instead of rigid control, on proving what was possible instead of accepting what others said was impossible. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was leading that change, whether the Council liked it or not. Back in the Council chambers, Vothrak made his decision. Schedule an emergency session, he told Hernax. Full Council attendance mandatory. We're voting on Earth's membership application. They'll fight you. Then they'll lose. Because if we don't accept humanity now, on whatever terms we can negotiate, we'll be trying to accept them later from a position of complete weakness. At least now we have some leverage. Do we, though? Hernax asked quietly. Vothrak didn't answer. They both knew the truth. Humanity held all the leverage. The Council was just trying to save face while surrendering. The Grand Assembly Hall was filled to capacity for the first time in 300 years. Every Council species had sent their highest-ranking representatives. The gallery seats overflowed with observers from independent civilizations, media correspondents, and species considering Council membership. Everyone knew this vote would reshape galactic civilization. Rachel Torres stood on the same platform where she'd been accused 6 months earlier. But the dynamics had shifted dramatically. Now she wasn't defending humanity's actions. She was waiting to see if the Council would finally acknowledge reality. Chancellor Vothrak called the session to order, his massive form radiating an authority that seemed diminished compared to their first meeting. We are here to vote on Earth's application for full Council membership. Before we proceed, Ambassador Torres has requested to address this assembly. Rachel stepped forward. She'd spent weeks preparing for this moment. But as she looked out at the hundreds of alien faces, she felt the weight of representing her entire species. 6 months ago, I stood here and gave the Council 3 options. Accept us as partners. Let us proceed independently. Or watch as we released navigation data that would destabilize your control over explored space. She paused, letting the memories settle over the assembly. You chose none of those options. Instead, you delayed, debated, and hoped the problem would resolve itself. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some delegates looked uncomfortable, but something interesting happened during your delay. Humanity didn't wait for permission. We built 43 settlements in the forbidden sectors. We established trade agreements with 62 independent species. We proved that routes you declared impossible could be navigated safely. We created an alternative to Council authority, and dozens of civilizations took notice. Delegate Hernax leaned forward. You are here requesting membership, yet you speak as though you don't need us. Because we don't need you, Rachel said simply. That's the truth you've been avoiding. Earth can thrive without Council membership. We have resources, territory, trading partners, and growing military capability. What we're offering today isn't a request. It's an opportunity. For both sides. Explain this opportunity, Vothrak commanded. The Council is 6,000 years old. You've maintained peace and order across hundreds of systems. That's admirable. But you've also become rigid, bureaucratic, unable to adapt when circumstances change. You spent 2,000 years declaring the forbidden sectors unreachable instead of finding new approaches to reach them. That's not leadership. That's stagnation. A Vren delegate rose angrily. You insult this council while asking for membership? I'm offering truth. You can choose to hear it as insult, or you can recognize it as the honest assessment of a potential partner. Rachel's voice remained calm. Humanity brings innovation. We solve problems differently than you do. We take risks you've forgotten how to take. We adapt faster than civilizations, bound by millennia of tradition. Those qualities make us valuable allies or dangerous competitors. You get to choose which. Counselor Dren, the jellyfish-like being who controlled agricultural production, spoke thoughtfully. What guarantees do we have that Earth will follow Council laws once granted membership? The same guarantees you have from every member species. We'll follow laws we agree to follow, and we'll work to change laws we believe are unjust. That's how democratic governance works. Rachel pulled up a holographic display showing Earth settlements. But here's what you need to understand. We've been operating in the forbidden sectors for 6 months without Council oversight. How many complaints have you received about human behavior? Silence greeted her question. None, she continued, because we've been respectful to neighboring species, honored our trade agreements, and resolved disputes peacefully. We've proven we can be responsible members of galactic civilization. What we won't do is accept subordinate status or restrictions that don't apply to other Council species. Chancellor Vothrek stood. The Council has reviewed Earth's application and the events of the past 6 months. We are prepared to offer full membership with the following conditions. Earth must share navigation data for the forbidden sectors with all Council species. Earth must accept Council oversight of new settlements. Earth must limit military expansion in contested territories. Rachel shook her head. Rejected. Those conditions would make us subordinate members, not equal partners. Here are Earth's terms. We accept full membership with immediate voting rights. We maintain sovereignty over our settlements and territory. We share navigation data on routes we've already mapped in exchange for access to Council scientific databases. We participate in collective defense agreements, but maintain independent military command. And we reserve the right to establish new settlements in unclaimed territory without requiring pre-approval. Those terms are unacceptable. A Keltharan delegate rumbled. Then we proceed with independent development. The choice is yours, not ours. Rachel's expression hardened. But before you vote, I want you to understand what independence means. It means Earth continues expanding in the forbidden sectors without sharing any data. It means our trade agreements with independent species continue bypassing Council regulations. It means every civilization watching today sees that Council membership is optional. That success doesn't require your approval. She gestured to the gallery where dozens of independent species watched intently. How many of them are reconsidering whether they need the Council at all? How many are thinking that if one small planet can thrive independently, maybe they can too? You're not just voting on Earth's membership. You're voting on whether the Council remains relevant in a changing galaxy. Kivara stood from her position in the enforcement section. The massive Huntress moved to the floor, her presence commanding attention from every delegate. I wish to speak on behalf of the Thekana, she announced. Lothrak looked surprised. This is irregular, Huntress. These are irregular times, Chancellor. The Thekana respect strength, cunning, and adaptability. Earth has demonstrated all three. We support their membership under the terms they have proposed. Furthermore, we announce a formal military alliance with Earth, effective immediately. Attack them, and you attack us. The assembly erupted in shocked voices. The Thakna were one of the Council's most powerful military forces. Their alliance with Earth changed everything. 3 more delegates stood in rapid succession. The Mirran Confederacy, a loose alliance of mining worlds. The Talvex Expanse, a mercantile civilization that controlled shipping in 4 sectors. The Qualax Assembly, a scientific collective. That had been Council members for 1,000 years. All announced support for Earth's membership under the proposed terms. Rachel watched the cascade effect she'd been working toward for 6 months finally materialize. The coalition of species who saw value in humanity's approach, who wanted change, who recognized that the old system was failing. Chancellor Vothrak raised his arms for silence. When the chamber finally quieted, his voice carried resignation mixed with understanding. It appears the Council must adapt or face irrelevance. Ambassador Torres, your terms are harsh. They're fair, Rachel corrected. Every condition I stated applies equally to other Council species. We're not asking for special treatment. We're demanding equal treatment. And if we refuse, then Earth continues thriving independently, while the Council becomes a historical curiosity. Species will leave. New civilizations will bypass you entirely. In 50 years, The Council will either be reformed or forgotten. We're offering you a chance to reform from a position of strength rather than desperation. Delegate Hernex spoke quietly. She is correct, Chancellor. We delayed too long. Our choice now is between accepting Earth as an equal or watching our authority erode completely. Vothrak surveyed the assembly, seeing the political reality clearly. The Council was divided. Multiple species supported Earth. Opposition was weakening. And most importantly, humanity had proven they didn't need the Council's permission to succeed. Very well. We will vote on Earth's membership under their proposed terms. All in favor? The vote wasn't unanimous. The Vren Collective voted against. Several conservative species abstained. But the majority voted in favor, swayed by political pressure, economic interests, and the recognition that fighting humanity would cost more than accepting them. The motion carries, Vothrak announced. Earth is hereby granted full Council membership with equal status to all existing members. Welcome to galactic civilization, Ambassador Torres. Rachel allowed herself a small smile. Thank you, Chancellor. Earth looks forward to productive partnership with all Council species. As the assembly began to dissolve into smaller discussions, Kivara approached Rachel's platform. You got everything you wanted, the Huntress observed. Almost everything. We still have to prove we deserve this position. Winning the vote was just the first step. Your species will change this Council. Already there is talk of reform, of reassessing policies that haven't been questioned in millennia, of finding new approaches to old problems. Kivara's 6 eyes focused on Rachel with something like respect. You hunted the Council itself, Ambassador. Tracked them, cornered them, and gave them no choice but to accept your terms. I prefer to think we offered partnership that benefited everyone. Call it what you want. The result is the same. Humanity is now an equal power in galactic politics. What will you do with that power? Rachel looked out over the assembly hall, seeing representatives from hundreds of species, each with their own interests, fears, and ambitions. We're going to keep doing what we've been doing. Solving problems, taking risks, pushing boundaries, and hopefully we'll inspire others to do the same. The galaxy will never be the same. That's the idea. Across known space, news of Earth's acceptance spread rapidly. On the 43 human settlements in the forbidden sectors, people celebrated. In council chambers across hundreds of worlds, politicians debated what this meant for their own positions. On independent worlds not affiliated with the Council, leaders watched carefully, evaluating whether this changed their calculations about seeking membership. David Reed, still aboard the Meridian near Outpost 17, received the news with quiet satisfaction. His mission to map the forbidden sectors while being chased by the Council's finest, Huntress, had been the spark that ignited everything. Now Earth had secured its place among the stars. He opened a channel to Rachel. Congratulations, Ambassador. You did it? Rachel appeared on his screen, looking tired but pleased. We did it. Your mapping mission gave us the leverage we needed. The outpost teams gave us proof of concept. The trade agreements gave us political allies. It took all of us. What's next? We govern. We participate in council debates. We push for reforms. We continue expanding into the forbidden sectors, but now with council resources to help. We prove that our way of doing things can benefit everyone. She paused. And we stay ready, because some species will test us. Some will try to undermine our position. Some will wait for us to fail. Let them try. Humans are good at proving people wrong. That we are, David. That we are. On Earth, in government buildings, military installations, and scientific facilities, humans watched the Council broadcast and understood that their civilization had just stepped onto a much larger stage. They were no longer an isolated planet struggling for recognition. They were a council species with all the rights, responsibilities, and opportunities it entailed. Some celebrated. Others worried. Most simply felt pride that humanity had earned its place through intelligence, determination, and refusing to accept limitations that others took for granted. In the council chambers, Chancellor Vothrock remained after most delegates had left. Delegate Hernax joined him, both looking at the empty platform where Rachel Torres had stood. "Do you think they will honor their commitments?" Vothrock asked. "Yes, but they will also push us constantly, challenge our assumptions, force us to justify policies we've taken for granted. It will be uncomfortable. Perhaps uncomfortable is what we need. 6,000 years of comfortable authority made us complacent. We stopped innovating, stopped adapting." The Chancellor turned to face Hernax. "The humans are right about one thing. We became focused on maintaining what exists rather than discovering what could exist. Maybe their presence will remind us why the Council was created in the first place. To bring species together, to foster cooperation and advancement." Exactly. We lost sight of advancement, became obsessed with control. The humans are forcing us to remember our original purpose. Hernax made a sound that might have been amusement. They hunted us without us even realizing we were prey. That takes remarkable cunning. Yes, and now they are partners instead of adversaries. Let us hope we are wise enough to learn from them. As the lights dimmed in the Grand Assembly Hall, the galaxy entered a new era. An era where humanity was no longer knocking on the door, asking for entry. They were inside, seated at the table, ready to shape the future of galactic civilization. Ivara had been right 6 months ago. Humanity was dangerous, but dangerous didn't mean destructive. Sometimes dangerous meant transformative, and the galaxy desperately needed transformation. The hunt was over. The partnership had begun, and across the stars, humans and aliens alike wondered what would come next when a species that refused to accept impossible started working alongside civilizations that had forgotten how to dream. The answer, they would discover, was progress. Real, unpredictable, uncomfortable, necessary progress, and it had only just begun.